Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spirit Coffee Talk. Myself, Lisa Richmond, is joined by my two very best spiritual friends, Ginette and Elyse, and we meet on Friday mornings for coffee. And we talk about spirit and energies and everything under the moon and the sun. So welcome today. Today we always just chat a little bit behind the scenes before we start. And we just feel like there is a collective narrative kind of that people have been feeling this past couple weeks. And I really think we talked about it last week a lot actually, about the roughness of what last week was when we got into this timeline jump. But I really feel like this week has been similar. Where people have been like, I am so spicy, or, like where we were feeling a bit stuck last week, where we're like, what's up with this weird energy? This week has been very like anxiety inducing. And I love to use the word spicy, thanks to you, Elyse, because you brought that to my attention last year in Hawaii, where you feel kind of that irritated, like, rah, but spicy is still kind of a fun word to use. But so very spicy, very anxious. A lot of like vivid dreams people have been having, right? Like these dreams have been bringing us all over the place, and glitchy timelines. So when we jumped into this new timeline, we knew it was a biggie. We knew that this was like happening. Yet I don't think any of us were truly prepared onto what the transition looked like. We've all been like looking into new earth frequency and 5-dimensional energy and where we want to go, but we forgot to look at the transition into it. I think, well, I'm speaking for everyone, but that's really, I forgot to really feel into what that transition time looks like. And it is rough. Like it is a rough transition. So I'd like to hear your ladies' feedback on like how this week has been for you. I know, Ginette, you're like that week ahead. So I was reaching out to you a ton at the beginning of the week, being like, what is up? Like, I don't have patience for my own children. I cannot function. And it was really hard because I almost had to detach from my life. And I had a bunch of cancellations of readings and stuff. And I'm like, thanks, because this timeline transition, they keep just showing me like tracks, like when you like switch tracks and you're like, whoa, that was a rough one. Let's try again kind of thing. And I don't feel like we are connected in yet. We're still in this wobbly stage. So can you ladies speak on this? Because I know there's a lot of people feeling really anxious, really outside of what their grounded, I don't know, energy generally is. So let's talk about it. Make people feel like they're not crazy.
Yeah, right. Elyse, do you want to go first? I mean, I have a lot of things to say, but
I don't.
No, I want to sit here and drink my coffee.
Damn it.
I just vented to you guys like right before we started. So I'm gonna collect my thoughts, because a lot of what you said, Lisa, I was like, yes, I've been actually feeling all of those things. And yes, so you start us off, Ginette. You're so eloquent.
All right.
Well, no pressure
will come from her.
Yeah.
I'm about a spice level mild right now, not very spicy today, but I very much was. Last week I was feeling that for sure. So I can see a little bit of the progression right now. Now, one thing I want to say that has just kind of wrapped up, astrologically speaking, like we had some full moons, I think it was last week. We had
one full moon.
Yeah. Depending on the timeline, because I think I went through like 4. So just saying. Okay. But we had solar flares.
Yeah.
And we also had something really significant very recently, and that was Neptune going direct. Now, the planet Neptune has been in retrograde for 6 months, and with it moving direct, it's bringing this huge like shift in illusions. So whatever was like an illusion for you now is starting to come into clarity. So for some people, that spiciness is because they're tired of what's not quite working. Why can't I see it clearly? This and that. With Neptune moving direct, it's bringing more clarity. We can see through the illusion, which then in turn ends some very significant karmic cycles. So there's a lot of endings that have been dragging for the last 6 months. So if you feel like you've been dragging this anchor of something and you can't figure out what it is, clarity should be coming very soon, if not already, for some of you. So that's one thing. But another thing I want to say that's been really significant in the energy this week, at least from my experience, is how Lisa said the dream state. Dream state has been very pokey proddy to me. And what I mean by that is in that higher energy, there is a real big density of 4D and 4D peskiness in the dream state. And I know that every night I've gone to sleep and I have had some wild pesky dream that is not what I'm about. And it doesn't align with where I'm going. Like it's either triggering, it's either got, things from the past in there. It's got warped masculine energies. I don't mean men. I just mean the masculine frequency of the old world, right? And we're moving into the new world. So there's a lot of density in that dream state, which can make people very unsettled in their waking state, even if they don't remember their dreams. And that's because, like Lisa said, we're in the transition phase, and that transition phase is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable when we don't know. And remember, Spirit said, I think we talked about it last week, they're like, it's really important that you create a bubble within yourself to navigate this new. Because if you sit in your bubble, that is your known frequency within the unknown frequency.
Right.
Right. And that can give us grounding. And I think we really need to honor that. And I know I've had to really like root into that to find that peace and wake up from certain dreams and be like, you know what? That was pesky dream state. Has nothing to do with me here. I don't need to look into it. I'm moving forward, kind of thing, like that, instead of being rattled by it.
Totally. Yeah. You know what also has been like strange yet comforting, but very strange over this last week is I feel like I've created that kind of bubble of existence in my reality. And like, I've really come to this idea of where we're creating our reality. Really not come to the idea, but I'm really like, okay, let me see what I can do with this kind of thing. But anyway, so I'm creating this safety bubble around me within my reality. But since, I would say over the last 2 weeks, but really in this last week, I feel like I am observing me in that bubble. So it's like one step further. So like, there's so much of my, like almost divided consciousness, because it's not a subconscious thing, because I'm very conscious of it. Yet it just feels like my conscious reality is almost compartmentalized. No, that's not right, but like almost like divided a little bit, where I have my conscious reality and I'm in it and I can see it from my like firsthand video game. Yet what transpires and like interacts, I feel like I'm observing it also from an outside perspective, watching, being like, oh, look at her wobble through life like she knows what she's doing. She's no clue. Not like she's no clue, but like it is like a video game, right? Like it is this weird perception where it's like you think all of this really matters. I don't know, but I'm the observer. Like I'm continuously having an outer body experience, but I'm also the one running into things and navigating through my existence. But then there's a conscious level that's observing it. And that conscious level observing it is really calm. Is really calm. So I'll feel like I'll say something and I'll be like, oh yeah, and then maybe we can do this and this and this. And then from the observer perspective, I'm like, well, we know that's not going to happen. Like
that's cute.
That's really cute, but that's not reality, right? And so it's like I'm having two conscious existence from this perspective, but very different levels of frequency almost. And I've never had it to this extent where it's this, like I'm either outer body experience observing it in a different reality, or I'm in my third dimensional. But like this switch is allowing me to do both at once. So when we're doing this, like upgrade into this new timeline, and we're like, they showed me like, back in the day, what are they called? Where you make those, there's two bubbles. And it's like one thing, this thing, and then how it like interconnects is this thing in the middle. What is that called?
The Vesica Pisces.
That is not
It's
what
called
I
the
thought.
Vesica
That's not what I was thinking.
That would be the
Is it
like
a Venn diagram?
Venn diagram, yeah.
Close.
Where the
VDVE.
Yeah, there's
or VP.
This is like 3D, right? And this is 5D. And this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because this is the transition, because we haven't really moved yet. So then all of a sudden I'm doing la 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 here in my life. And here I am looking at it and experiencing it, right? So like, it's not like I'm way over here. I'm still doing the 3D stuff, but my fifth dimensional frequency is observing it in that middle ground.
That's you becoming more multidimensional. That's where we're going in the 5D.
But I don't mean that this is fourth dimension. This is not fourth dimensional frequency.
No, it's just you being able to observe yourself and be in consciousness from multiple perspectives. Like that's where Spirit's been saying we're going to be moving into more and more, right?
So how long have you been doing that? You speak like you're an old pro in this multidimensional frequency understanding.
It's not about me being an old pro. It's about what Spirit had said, I think, back in the summer. They said you are all moving into the multidimensional nature of yourselves.
Right.
That was either spring or summer. And it is not just about being able to jump into different dimensional realities, but to be or have a level of consciousness in any one of them, past, present, or future, or parallel,
yes,
at the same time, and recognize each one is valid and happening.
See, and that's the part that you don't know until you experience it.
Exactly.
Right? Multidimensional understanding is like, oh yeah, when I go into my meditations or my like whatever channel and I go off and I communicate with other beings or whatever, like, and then coming back to my earthly being, that's kind of what you think living a multidimensional existence is. And it is to a point, but when you can experience it all at once, that's and I think that's why Spirit was giving me a bunch of stuff about the quantum and like to like really educate myself on like the quantum world so that I could understand what it was like to experience things in like all at once, kind of, like multiple things all at once in different timeline frequencies, all of it.
Well, you know what this is allowing people to do eventually is to be able to take, say, the present self of you here and connect to a future self. And maybe that future self is 3 months ahead of where you are now. Talk to your future self and be like, hey, how did we get there? What can I do here at this point? Future self can be like, hey, you know what? You need to do this and this. And you're working in being the creator of your reality through dimensions and time at any point.
Ginette, this started happening when I had that experience. When I went forward, it would have been 6 years, I guess. For 2 years. Do you remember?
No.
What?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember.
Okay, first of all, I want to share this thing then because I have not, and now I'm going to tell a bunch of people. And I thought I told you. I think I've only told 2 people this.
Maybe you told me and I can't remember right now.
Hey, Elyse, do you want to talk first? Because I really feel like I've talked a lot.
I can. Yeah. Or do you want to just go with it? Are you going to talk yourself out of sharing?
Okay. I got to share this.
So I'll just say, to come back to, as you were talking originally, Lisa, they were giving me, like I was writing some stuff down because my brain is not functioning today. And they were kind of tying some of this together. So share what you're going to share. And I'm just going to let them keep whatever. And then I'll come back.
Okay. This is very vulnerable for me.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So it was a couple weeks ago, probably about a month ago. I was getting ready for a reading, and all of a sudden I was getting pulled into like a meditative state. So I went in, and then I was leaving my body and coming back, and I felt really wonky. And then spirit, my guys were like, you need to go into the tub. So then I ran, and this was like 10 o'clock in the morning. So then I ran a tub for myself, and I was there, and I was just like, I was just moving energy, moving energy. It was very strange, very, very strange for me. And then I was like ready to fall asleep. They're like, you need to go to bed. You need to go to bed, because it wasn't safe, because I'd fall down into the water. So I went to bed, and instantly I laid down in bed, and I closed my eyes, and like, I'm not a napper. I wish I could be, but I'm not. And so then when I laid down in my bed and I closed my eyes, all of a sudden I saw like this big circle of light, okay, in like my third eye. And then all of a sudden, all the light got just like extracted, like down to this like pinpoint, like, and then all of a sudden, I got pulled from my body. And it wasn't like I was like lurking over my body, or I was like astral traveling in that way. I got pulled so far from my body so quickly. All of a sudden, it was like through light, right? And then all of a sudden, I was awake, and I was fully functioning awake in my body, which looked very different than it does now, 6 years from now. And I experienced this for 2 full years. I watched I'm going to get really emotional. So I watched my kids grow for like 2 years. My oldest one wasn't there. She was gone. Not like gone, but she was like traveling. And I was living on an island in British Columbia. I live in Saskatchewan, middle of Canada right now.
oh,
And I watched my kids grow up, and my son was big, and my daughter, who's like wild and like messy and so much like me when I was a kid, but just like, and I watched her, and when I have the memories, I saw it like, but I don't have the same memories as I would like in this third dimensional kind of way. But I remember their energies. And I remember Marley, that's my middle one. I remember her energy being so vibrant and so pure. And she was an entertainer in the community, and everybody had their significance within the community. My son was an outdoorsy kid, artist, and I was like the island psychic, kind of go figure. But I wrote books, and I interacted, and I did healing. And it wasn't like this thing where I was like this third dimensional mom and then I was a medium. It was just like who I was within the community. And my daughter, the youngest one, she was my little hippie. She was kind of doing her own thing. She was quite a bit more introverted than I thought she was going to be. But anyway, and I saw, and one thing that sticks out is like, I lived for 2 years. So like I saw my body change, and like I did things that I didn't know how to do in this. Like I don't know how to do. So I remember going out, and I was taking care of my hens, because I had hens for eggs, but I was ready and fixing their system to move the hens, because I was preparing a certain part of my garden for spring growth. And so I had my hens there to get the certain types of bugs and poop to create like manure. But I knew what I was doing, and and there was this carriage thing that I was moving. It was like a movable hen house, but and it was like a whole ecosystem thing that I knew about, which I do not know about, but I remember it. I remember doing it. And so it's almost like if you could lead me out to do it now, I could do it, because I did it for 2 years, you guys. I could describe my house, my yard, and like everything. And then like I was so happy, and it was so good. And I was such a little hippie, and I lived off the land, and I just it was the most, and I saw my kids grow and I saw them go through different things. And my husband had his fishing boat and he was fishing on the ocean, and that was my life. And that's where we stood. There was no thought about going anywhere else. The exchange of goods was different. It wasn't so money focused. But it was 6 years from now. And then all of a sudden I heard my phone go off and I woke up to this. I had no idea where I was. I had no idea who it was. I was like looking, and my body felt differently. And I was like, and I start crying. And I picked up the phone with my sister. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what is going on? She's like, at the airport. I'm like, what? Where are you? Where are you? She's like, I'm at the airport. I'm like, in Saskatoon? She's like, yes. I'm like, I had no idea where I was. I had no idea what year I was in until I realized that I woke up. And then I had it all come flooding back that I had my kids, like my babies, back as little kids. And then everything changed. I was like holding them and smelling them because I was like, I got you back as little babies versus being there. And then my guides started talking to me about, like, if you want to move in this direction, these are the type of things you need to do, but don't forget about being in the moment right now, kind of thing. And so every moment did I not tell you about this?
No, you did, but not in as much detail. Like you told me snippet pieces.
Because it's taken a long time, first of all, for everything to kind of like download and understand, and coming back into this projection of reality. And then that's when they really came down on like the projection of reality, when everything is kind of happening simultaneously. And that I'm like choosing to be in this reality focused perspective. You guys, it was crazy. It was crazy. But that's when this really started, about moving into being able to perceive multiple frequencies of realities at once.
Yeah.
It's without a doubt the most intense experience I've ever had in my life. 2 years, you guys.
I would have bet you, as you were talking, $1 million that we had this conversation in Hawaii last year at this exact time.
Really?
Yes.
This happened like a month ago.
I know. Because when you were saying it was a month ago, like I was sitting here and I'm like, I've heard you talk about this before. Not the detail, like what Ginette said, but like that you were on the island, that you were this hip, like.
Interesting.
See, this is the glitch in the matrix
thing. That's exactly what I was going to say. This is what's happening in so many ways. Like people remembering different conversations. I had someone be like, hey, can I still store my kayak at your house? I'm like, what?
Pardon?
They're like, yeah, my kayak. Remember you said I could? I'm like, you're a kayak? I'm like, your blow up kayak? They're like, because I'm like, I guess so. We could store a blow up kayak. And then she's like, no, the yellow plastic one. I'm like, you have a plastic yellow kayak? And we had a conversation. And I said, sure. Like, I've known this person for years. Right? Like, it just totally different memories of things right now, and they're colliding. So
over and over and over. And so this is the timeline thing, Elyse.
That's why I was making this face, because I was like, what the fuck?
6 years into the future, and you heard it a year ago. I'm fascinated with this. This is blowing my mind right now.
But this is
sorry if my face looked rude.
No, this is a great example though of time not being linear.
Feeling really insecure.
Yeah. Watch your face, Elyse. Jesus.
But this is like non-linear time. This is
non-linear time.
Is everything and all the time in every direction at once, depending on perspective, frequency, all of that. And it doesn't compute in our 3D physics-based reality, right?
Yes.
That's the thing. We want to make it in a linear time because that's how we're taught it is, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not. It's not, because I was definitely older and I could feel it in my body. Like I could feel the difference in my physical body. For sure, I looked different. And I knew things that I don't know right now. And I did it for like 2 years. It was bliss. But having my babies back 6 years younger, you have no idea the emotional craziness that I felt after that. It's
Yeah.
like being able to look back and be like, oh, I wish I could have them back little again. And I did
Mhm.
in Saskatoon, but they were little again.
Yeah. That's huge.
That's crazy, hey?
Yeah.
Hmm.
What were your notes, Elyse?
Okay. So kind of going back, and this applies even to what you were just sharing, Lisa, about what happened. So I'm going to try and articulate this in a helpful way or a concise way. So we were talking about, like, we've been talking a lot, and I think we talked about it last week, but around like coming up to the solstice, we're kind of in the midst, and Lisa, you were saying this morning, we're in the midst of this like settling in of like the timeline isn't kind of settled. And then there's a lot to say about the solstice is going to kind of have another layer of like massive timeline change or something really, maybe it's the solidification of it, or I don't exactly know. But last week we were talking about, like asking for things that you want and being really clear on things. And I feel like for me, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but in the last, like during this really clunky time, the times when I feel the clunkiest or like things are working the least is when I'm trying to move towards the things that I'm desiring in this new timeline or for future, we'll just say, right? So it's like I'm looking to experience, maybe a more open schedule or a little bit more downtime. But then that's not really working out. Or I'm looking to heal this, but then I'm doing the things, but it feels really clunky. I'm trying to have like really, it's December. I want to have like joyful experiences with my kids. I don't have kids, but like for, you, Lisa, or whatever. But then it's like, it's not working and it's like, what the hell? Like what?
Yeah.
And there's that frustration. And Ginette, you were saying at the beginning of this around like staying in your bubble. That's where this like, this grounded space is where we can like, when we're in our bubble, we can kind of find that. And Lisa, to your point, that like separation of perspective. In the bubble, it's like it's calm and it feels like, okay, I can kind of see the landscape. But then venturing outside of that feels really crazy, chaotic, clunky. And then that's where, the version of you is like toddling around, like, running into things and nothing is really flowing easily. So put that aside, that kind of piece of information. In a reading this week, Spirit gave me a really interesting analogy. And it was in relation to conscious partnerships. But then as I was sitting with it throughout the week, it kind of evolved into like everything. And they gave me the analogy of, they'll often use like movies for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me the analogy of, I can't remember which Hunger Games movie it is, but it's the one where in the Hunger Games dome thing, it was a clock. And so they were like in that little middle part and there was water all around. And then there was land. They could go and swim to the different, like to the outside portion of the dome. And there was different things that happened at different times. And it was like a clock. And so all of the people in the Hunger Games figured out it's a clock. And so then the game master guy's like, okay, they figured it out. We're going to like screw with them. And so he said, spin it. And he spun the middle part so that the times didn't line up the same way anymore. And so it disoriented everyone. And so what Spirit was saying in this reading is that that's what's happening right now. It's like, it's not meant to disorient us, but it's what's happening. And you were saying, Lisa, there's like these different tracks we can choose. It's the same idea in that it's like, oh, we're turning the clock this way. Oh, we're going to turn actually this way. And then we're going to go this way and then this way and then spin it and see where it ends up and see how it goes. And so it's this, we're trying to navigate from the center of the clock to kind of the outside portions of this realm that we're in right now that's really not settled. And so we keep losing track of where we are. And that's why it feels so disorienting. But then to kind of take that a step further, that was what they were saying in this reading. To take that a step further from what we were talking about today, they were saying that inside of our bubble is that conscious self. It's that kind of presented place where we are. The things that we're trying to create for future and the outside of the clock that keeps kind of getting disoriented is outside of our bubble. That's not a bad thing, but it's that when we try to venture towards that, as the middle of the clock is kind of spinning and reorienting itself over and over and over again through this really clunky time, we become separated, or not separated, but we become more conscious of outside of our bubble, but it's like changing all the time. So it's like you step out your front door and you're in Saskatoon, and then the next minute you step out your front door and you're in Colombia, and then the next minute you step out and you're like, where the hell am I? Like, what is happening? So it's this really disorienting place, and it's almost like they're spinning the midst of the clock trying to find the correct highest timeline for both collective but also all of our own individual journeys. And so it's like it has to be reoriented a quadrillion, chillion, billion times. Totally. Like it's just infinite. And so it's because there's a bit of a like 3D time crunch with it, it's almost constant. Yeah. So, but what's happening, I think, is that when we're trying to move things forward for ourselves in certain ways, we're stepping outside of that bubble. It feels like it's not working. And so our brain is like, well, it's not happening. You're doing it wrong. This sucks. Everything feels crappy. You're trying to move forward, but it's not working. It's not going to work, right? Especially because we're all tired and we've been talking about how the energy is spicy and we're getting triggered and there's all these other pieces to it. So it's not necessarily bad. And I know you weren't saying this, Ginette, but it's not a bad thing if we're stepping outside of our bubble and it feels like we're like running into walls that are just popping up everywhere. But it's that understanding that it's not working. It's just that we're trying to move things forward in a place where like every time we step out the door, it's a different landscape. And so that's going to be really hard for it to feel like it's making sense or like you actually even are moving anything forward. And then the other piece that they said was that this like consciousness version of self that's kind of in that bubble that we can feel that peacefulness, and then that outside self that's kind of trying to navigate all these changes. That's what they were talking about a few weeks ago when we each did the 3 tune-ins, and they were saying to me about different soul fragments coming in. That's the soul fragment pieces coming in that are like adding to our soul experience right now, is adding to that bubble consciousness of like, okay, I can see everything and everything's calm. And then the parts of us that have been here already, I guess to say, are the ones that are kind of traveling out. So they're the ones that are getting triggered more because they've already lived the life that we have all the baggage and the shit and the stuff that's been hard and the stuff that's worked well. And it has a more 3D experience of our life versus the conscious soul fragments that are coming down, that are the piece of us that are existing in this bubble where we can ground. They're more calm also because they haven't been in it with us from day one that we ended up on this earth in 3D. So it's to say that like, if it feels like we're trying to move things forward in certain ways or do things for ourselves or whatever, and it's feeling really disoriented and clunky, keep coming, like you were saying, Ginette, keep coming back to that center self, because that's that newest kind of source consciousness that's embodying here. And that will start to feel a lot less disoriented once this timeline settles and the spinning kind of stops, but also when we can integrate those two a little bit more together, because they feel really separate. I don't know if that made sense, because it was a lot of different
totally
pieces.
Does. And I want to say real quick too, it aligns completely with what's come through towards the end of this week in my daily readings online, like on my videos. Spirit spoke specifically to a lot of adjustments that they're like, we need to do a lot of micro adjustments. So just roll with them. Let us do the adjusting. So it's interesting. You got that spinning clock thing, and the way you're explaining it completely supports what I got too. And those are completely separate conversations. So I think that's really neat. Yeah. And Spirit, they said that was on their end too, right? So like what's going on around you, are these adjustments happening from the universe's side, from Spirit's side, in accordance to our collective plan and our individual plan? So yeah, like be observant, but don't freak out with what you're seeing. Hold your energy and anchor your energy, because then you're keeping that frequency of what is desired bright, right? Like a lighthouse. You're keeping it steady and you're keeping it bright as guideposts.
So what part do you keep bright? Do you keep bright the higher level consciousness, or do you keep bright your individual, like, human belief system? Like, like I'm going through life, but I'm observing it and being like, oh, almost like a higher self observing it from my, so like, what part do you keep bright? The part that you almost detach from, that you're observing from, because that's the light that'll guide you in your way.
I think if you know how to do that, then yes. If you don't know how to do that or haven't had that experience, then you rely on your authentic self. Like, what resonates as your authentic truth? Where is your peace? Where is your undercurrent?
Yeah.
Where is what you know now in this reality, if you can't see it from multiple perspectives?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Definitely
I think that can,
wild times.
I think
That's
that can
real
even
tough
look
too.
like, the 3D kind of soul fragment self of you that's running around trying to do all these things and feels so exhausted by things feeling so clunky and spicy and not flowing and anxiety and It's like, when you're noticing that's happening, I almost feel like just like pausing and kind of dropping anything and scurrying back to yourself. And so that might mean, like, we talk so much about like comfort or joy or having a nap, or just being like, you know what, I'm going to pause the trying to move forward for a minute. Like, I'm going to stop taking so much action and I'm just going to like pause. And it's almost like, I feel like coming back to yourself just to recharge a little bit.
100%.
Because for me, in my experience anyways, it's like the things that I'm trying to make happen, and I don't even mean in a forceful way, I just mean like, get a piece of guidance, take the next step. Okay, that feels really good. And then all of a sudden I'm running into a wall and I'm like, what in the actual? Like,
Yeah, Elyse, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, gone are the days where you can kind of expect to know that you can know something. Like, gone are the days where you have a plan and that that you can go and you can continue your life in this pretty consistent way, right? Like, every single day I wake up thinking, I wonder what the hell is going to happen today and how much I'm not going to know.
And so it's like, when I run into that wall, I'm just like, F it, drop it, come back to self, cocoon, comfort myself, do something to make myself feel better in that moment. When I feel like I've got the battery recharged, then maybe I'll venture back out into running into probably another wall, because I don't know where the hell I am at any given moment.
I think my compensatory strategy right now, at least, and it didn't used to be this, but right now at least, is to like make myself busy.
Oh yeah.
Is to run errands. There's a billion things, because I have all my family's birthday within a month of Christmas as well. So there's like birthday parties and prepping and Christmas and like bleh, right? And it could be joyous, but so my compensatory strategy is like, what else do I have to do today? What else do I have to get out and do? You know what I mean? Because I literally have to do something every single day. So,
and then the comfort side of that is great. I check things off my to-do list. So if I want to just like chill, I don't have to think about the 7,000 things that I still have on the to-do list, because I've checked off 5,000 of them by distraction and busyness. And great. It's like, there can be comfort in that.
Do you know what's funny? Do you know what I did? Is I found this thing. You know how you get these things in the mail from like realtors or something, where there's like a pad of paper that you can, whatever. So I got this pad thing. It says to-do list at the top, and I posted it on my fridge, and I'm like, nobody writes a thing on it, because this is going to be my illusion that there's nothing on my to-do list. Don't touch it.
That's awesome.
It's a blank to-do list on my fridge. So I'm like, that way I can have that illusion. We're talking about illusions going away. I have to create illusions to keep myself sane.
Yeah. That's a great one though. What a great idea. I hear you on the busyness though, because I found myself doing the same thing. For me, I found though that I can only like quiet and cocoon at this point for so long before I feel the energy again and I need to be
Mhm.
active about it, I'm constantly having to like rest, active, rest,
Mhm.
active. I can't just
Yeah.
like sink into rest for however long.
No.
Yeah. And so I'm having to
Do that.
pick things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. So the other
Maybe
day,
after Christmas, mid-January.
I don't know.
That's usually high anxiety time though.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know yet. 2024 is only giving me tiny snippets at this point of recording today.
Yeah.
But I think that's connected to the timeline after the solstice. I really feel like they'll be able to be more.
Yeah, when
clearly
we do our
communicated.
solstice episode, we should tune in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See if
Yeah.
anything
I feel
comes.
like it's like some super top secret, like,
Yeah, or like
and I'm
things
trying
have
not to put too much
settle
onto
first.
it.
I know, but maybe it's just that things have to settle first. That
Yeah.
they're
I
like,
think so.
put a pin in that. We thought we could tell you, but we can't because
Mhm.
it's completely off the rails right now.
Yes.
The clock is just like spinning
Yeah.
aggressively.
Yeah.
So I hope that was helpful for everyone. Everyone's sitting there
Light,
watching
easy
right now,
breezy
like,
one.
like, what the heck did they just say?
They need to take a break.
So with that, have a wonderful, peaceful weekend. Love and joy.
Love and joy. All right, everyone.
Venti coffee.
Drink
Okay.
lots of coffee and no expectations.
Yeah.
So if anybody hasn't had the okay, going back to the one where you interviewed me and you're like, what's your special drink from Starbucks? And I was like, Americano Misto. That's not the truth anymore.
Oh.
It is Starbucks seasonal sugar cookie oat latte. I only get one pump. They usually put 4. I only get one pump. I get an extra shot of espresso because I really like it. It's
Yeah.
so good. I just walk out of there
7
like
in a cup.
I
Mhm.
love when you smell it out of the cup and you're like, this is joy, like that moment of joy. That's
That's
pure
joy.
joy right there.
That's joy.
Yeah.
Yes. Finding the
That is
little things.
far and away their best drink. Like
I
hands down.
agree, Elyse.
Hands down.
God, you and I, girl, we do have some. Have you tried it?
Oh, yes.
Ginette?
Yes. I had it. It
You
was
love
really
it?
good. I do like it. There was one that I liked. I liked the apple oat one. What was
that
it? The
one's-
apple?
The apple
Apple-
oat one is their fall
yeah.
collection.
Yeah, that
one.
one is, I think, my favorite. Like, I think that's my hands down apple oat one. Yeah.
That
Isn't
one's a
that a
close second
chai
for me.
as well?
I don't know. You
Apple
can get
pie
it.
chai, apple pie or apple chai. Apple
I
pie.
think you can get
Probably.
it coffee too.
But
Yeah.
I get the coffee one.
I get the chai with a shot of espresso.
I want to go to Starbucks now today.
Maybe
That's where
chai.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Joy time.
Okay, I have to do a shout out to Starbucks because although it's like consumerism, blah, 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 whatever, Starbucks has helped this turbulent transition into the new timeline. Thank you, Starbucks, for stepping forward.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay.
Okay. Mwah. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. If you do have any questions, which you probably do about this episode, put them underneath. I love reading the comments. We like to respond to them. And I hope that this resonated and that at least we can feel as a collective that we're not going crazy, but we're just figuring out this individual timeline that is interconnected with our collective timeline that is not solidified yet. So just find peace, find Starbucks, find whatever it is to make you feel grounded and happy in your heart. And from our sweet, loving hearts to all of you, peace out this Friday.
Peace and joy.
Peace and joy.